I'm here all alone in this wonderful church at which I am a volunteer. This is my very first shift as a volunteer here. The church is called St Mary the Strand, also known as St Mary in the Way, as it's right in the middle of the Strand. The Strand divides on each side of the street to allow cars to go past it, although it's just been pedestrianised. Designed by a man called James Gibb, who did also St Martin in the Fields. He trained in Italy and was a very secret Catholic, but this is a Protestant church designed under the realm of Queen Anne. And as you can see here, the beautiful, everything in here is carved stone, if you can believe it, which means that it's incredibly expensive to make, also incredibly difficult to repair as well. And the church is absolutely stunning. It's a sort of bridge between Palladian and Baroque styles. It's also got an amazing carved stone roof as well. Let's zoom in on parts of it. Absolutely stunning. And right next to King's College. The artwork is from the Dominican Republic, and I'm afraid I haven't read up about what it's meant to represent, so I can't tell you, but it looks very nice, especially with the backlit colours behind it as well. Anyway, a much underappreciated church, St Martin in the Fields. I thoroughly recommend. Oh, what's this? I've just noticed something in the corner. There is look, it's King Charles I and his wife Henrietta. I've no idea how old this is, probably a bit later than that, but he was, I believe, canonised by the Church of England. He actually became a saint following his murder or his rightful execution, depending on which side you take in the Civil War. But there he is. So, walking in Peckham, I've just noticed on this building, which dates from the 1870s, there's a little plaque here. 100 years ago this year, the very first broadcast sermon made by Dr. James Ebeneezer Boon took place here. I've looked into it, and apparently he was like an amateur wireless sort of guy. He set up like a ham radius. It wasn't to the BBC, although they also celebrate their 100th anniversary this year as well. Broadcast from here, and he got letters of appreciation from all over London, north, south, east and west. He invited people to send in confirmation they'd received him, and they did. So this is the home of British religious broadcasting here in glamorous, windy and slightly wet Peckham. When Winston Churchill was at Harrow School, he was a very naughty boy. This is the punishment book from the school. It includes all sorts of crimes, such as idleness, lying, and the punishments: flogging, how many times you were flogged, and Winston Churchill is here. I've just found him. Where's he gone? Okay, here he is. It says Churchill. Where's he gone? There he is. Churchill called Spencer, and he received, well, he did breaking into premises and doing damage, and he got 7 flogs, strokes of the cane, I believe they're called. This is the original oak door to number 10 Downing Street, the home and office of Britain's Prime Ministers since 1735. The brass letterbox on the front of the door is engraved with the title First Lord of the Treasury. It's a historic title that really belongs to the Prime Minister. Now, this door was replaced, it was wooden, in 1991 following an IRA attack on Downing Street. And ever since then, we have a new door. By the way, do you know that the Prime Minister doesn't even have keys to the number 10? And the door cannot be opened from the outside. Look, there's no keyhole here at all. A security guard is always on duty to let people in, only from the inside. So I'm in the British Museum looking at the ancient Greek area, which I've never seen before. Really early Greek stuff. Look at this. This is a prize jar given for the Panathenaic games held for the goddess Athena. This is from the year 566 or 562 BC. It's a genuine prize for the cart race. It would have been filled with oil, astonishingly old, astonishingly beautiful, astonishingly rare, and I've just seen it for the first time. It's a beautiful day here at Buckingham Palace, and I can tell you that King Charles is actually here today. How can you tell that? Two things. Firstly, there are two sets of guards out today wearing their winter tunics rather than the red ones, but two sets. If there are two sets here in both entry boxes, that means the royal family are in. Secondly, the flag on top of Buckingham Palace. This is the royal standard and not the Union flag. This was incorporated following the death of Princess Diana in 1997. Before then, the Union flag would be put here all the time. After then, they make a distinction because there was such a kerfuffle about whether to commemorate Diana's death or not, and Tony Blair got involved. But anyway, if this flag is up here, it means that the monarch is in residence, which doesn't happen that often. It's not really their favourite palace. This is a first edition of The Spy Who Loved Me. It has been actually signed not only by Ian Fleming himself, but on the back it's been signed by James Bond himself, Roger Moore at Pinewood Studios, Bond Mark III, in his typical joking manner. This book was owned by someone else, no idea who, but anyway, it's now managed to find itself on sale at this wonderful bookshop, and its price is... This is the letter that gave away the gunpowder plotters, or rather it's a facsimile of it. Anyway, it was delivered to Lord Monteagle in his house in Hoxton in October the 26th, 1605, and it reads something like, "My lord, out of the love I bear to some of your friends, I have a care of your preservation. Therefore, I would advise you, as you tender your life, to devise some excuse to shift your attendance at this Parliament," etc., etc. It was anonymous, but it probably was from his brother-in-law, and it's this that actually set the security services at alarm to eventually discover the plotters. So this comes from The Gunpowder Plot, one of these fantastic jackdaws that were created in the 1960s for the education, well, mostly of children, but really to allow them access to original sources when viewing history and historical documents and devices. So it includes amongst it, well, this is a list of all the different documents inside it. It also has these broadsheets with information about each section of it. It includes this image of the plotters. 1966, I think this came out, it's fantastic. Maps or images of the hall, Parliament, the Abbey. It's even got the confession of Guido Fawkes himself, at the end of which he says, "He also saith he did not intend to set fire to the train or the fire fuse until the king was come into the house." King was coming to the house. And by the way, my dog Frankie is not frightened of fireworks. The other thing to think about is that in terms of his execution, this is the portrayal of the execution of all the conspirators. Guy Fawkes himself managed to escape being executed in that he jumped off the scaffold in his way up to have the horrible things done to him, and managed to break his own neck in Whitehall Court, right next to the Houses of Parliament, and therefore he escaped death. The other thing is that he was actually captured on the 4th of November. The plot was due to take place on the 5th, but the fact he was discovered on the 4th, maybe that should be the better day to celebrate it. Anyway, have a happy Gunpowder Plot, Guy Fawkes night. So I just got back from Glastonbury, And when it's muddy there, you can imagine people walking across wooden bridges like this. This is in the British Museum, however, but it comes from Avalon in Somerset, near where Glastonbury is, and guess what? It dates from the year 3806 BCE. And they've done that with the science of dendrochronology. You look at the rings, and it can tell you just how old something is by the seasons in which it grew, compared to wood that is known 3806 BCE. £291 million was stolen in May 1990 in an apparent mugging in the street, Nicholas Lane. It wasn't an apparent mugging, it was a carefully planned stealing of this money, bearer bonds, by an organised syndicate who eventually ended up dealing with Colombian drug lords and the IRA to launder the money. It was all due to bearer bonds which were untraceable. Someone had accidentally dropped £4 million worth of it in the street a few weeks before, in January that year. The organised gang had read about it. They planned to steal some themselves. They wanted to make it look as if it was a complete accident, but the Bank of England were onto it from the beginning and watched carefully what happened. So a man with a knife held up a 58-year-old man in this very street. He then escaped. Eventually, the man who did the hold-up was allegedly murdered himself by his compatriots. People were eventually captured and imprisoned for it. Some escaped, some were extradited, but it all started in this very alley. It's worth about £800 million in modern day money. It was just a hold-up of bits of paper in this street in 1990. This is the Guards' Chapel, completely destroyed in the Second World War by a flying bomb. Over 100 people died in it. This is the Guards' Museum, and this is a date on the gate. Can you see here it says E2R 1984, Queen Elizabeth II, when this section was built. However, the main barracks themselves were built a lot earlier. And running along here, you can see this is the square, the parade ground, where the band will assemble in about an hour's time. And looking at the gates here, can you see it says WR4 1833. This is for King William IV, the king just before Queen Victoria, nicknamed Silly Billy. He was a great naval officer, I think, mostly. Anyway, he created these barracks before the Buckingham Palace became a palace. I think he was planning on moving in. He died just old enough for Queen Victoria to take the throne rather than her mother, who was desperate to control her life even more. But that's why we have WR4 1833 on the gates here. What's this thin black line, I hear you ask, stretching all the way around the ancient Guildhall in the City of London? The answer is it's the perimeter of the arena for an 1800-year-old Roman remain that was only discovered in 1989 during the building of the Guildhall Art Gallery, which I'm about to guide in later today. This is a huge area, and this is only where the sandy section where the fights took place actually is. Beyond it would have been all of the stands. Up to 7,000 people at its peak would have crowded in here to see the games, and a section of it has even been created inside the art gallery in the basement. You can go and see it. It's absolutely free, and I thoroughly encourage you to do so. There's a James Bond story in the National Gallery about this painting. The Fighting Temeraire by Turner. In the film Skyfall, it is in front of this painting that Q meets Bond for the first time, Ben Whishaw. Q says to Bond, look at this old wreck being dragged away as it's no longer in use or of any relevance to the government, to which Bond replies, I just see a bloody great ship. Key scene from Skyfall. I am the London Spy. I worked for 25 years in the City of London, there we are now, as a vice president at Deutsche Bank at the end, but I left to live my dream, which is, instead of boring investment banking, although in fact I really like my job, but there you go, to work as a tour guide. And I'm now number 16 in the London TripAdvisor rankings with over 450 reviews. I just have an absolute passion for London history, storytelling, architecture, Romans, literature, crime, transport, any aspect, the river, any aspect of London history. And we are now up at 120, the Garden at 120, one of my favourite and lesser known spots in the city to come. You've got here Leadenhall Market in the distance. There we go, Leadenhall. And apart from being a tour guide, I'm also a professional magician as well. And I just love doing magic on my tours too. Okay, this building is called what's it called now? The Prawn, the Willis building. And one of the few buildings that you can still now see just from here. It's really obscured all over the rest of London, surprisingly, because it's such an iconic building. But so many other tall buildings have gone up around it that you can hardly see it now. It's just coming into distance around the corner. It is the famous Norman Foster iconic London skyline building, the Gherkin. Here it is in all its glory, and you can see just how exciting it appears to be with its shape. And come up to the Garden at 120 or come on my tours, www.thelondonspy.com, and I'd be very happy to see you. So if you want to buy a human heart, human brain, or even a common toad, this is the place to come. I am in, what's the shop called?
Hoxton Street Monster Supplies. I'm the house zombie, clearly. Welcome.
Excellent. So, and we are in the famous Leadenhall Market. This is a pop-up shop that's here until Christmas time, and it's absolutely stuffed full of amazing ideas and brilliantly themed, allegedly for human consumption, objects which are really designed for monsters, and humans might enjoy them, they might not. And they've even got a chart here so you can come in and test, are you really a monster, or do you just merely qualify as an average human? Although in fact we are, of course, are the master predators in this world. They've even got broomsticks, cubed earwax, which I think it's like one of Bertie Bott's favourite sweets. I will try it later, but not on camera. I don't want to be seen eating. Anyway, this is, oh look, you can even buy human snot here, guts and garlic chutney, and some just old-fashioned brain jam. Well, I think this is a fantastic place, and it's all for charity. What's the charity you're supporting?
So we're called the Ministry of Stories. We're based in Hoxton, where we keep a shop that's half the size of this one and twice the charm. Our shop has a very, very secret door, and behind this door we're hiding our charity space for children. We're doing creative writing workshops and mentoring programs for kids who live in Hoxton. We're trying to help the kids develop their writing skills, use their imagination and their confidence by sharing their stories. And the kids are coming through the shop. They open their own secret door with a secret password that I don't know what the secret password is, but
clearly I don't know either.
They definitely do. So they're entering their space of imagination. All the profits from the shop fund the charity, and the creativity of the charity is reflecting back to the shop, because we're doing our own product development using brilliant copyright for.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And the charity is called Ministry of Stories.
The Ministry of Stories.
Please visit. awful accident for a group of young boys in the Scouts is commemorated here. 8 boys died, plus the master of their ship. In sight of their camp after a squall, they are now commemorated along with these Commonwealth soldiers from the First World War here in Nunhead Cemetery when we've just finished the 2-minute silence. I've just looked into this, and Edward Beckham, the brother, I assume, of the William who did die in this terrible tragedy, was rescued, and he went on to become David Beckham's great-grandfather, as it happens. But this is such a sad memorial to these brave boys on a sad day. So this piece of technology is incorrect. This is William Caxton with his press in the 1470s. Yes. I'm in Stationers' Hall. The hall dates back to the early 17th century, so post-fire 17th century. I remember the company, the stationers, represent the printing industry, and they got their royal charter in 1403. But the thing about this press is, Caxton here, who brought printing across in the 1470s, has got his printing press here, bit of paper he's just printed, but the printing press is incorrect. The arm that's used to press down the paper can't go all the way around. It gets stuck, I think, against the figures by it. And I've got one of my favourite pieces. I actually have a genuine example here of printing made by William Caxton. It cost me a lot of money. I won't say how much it cost. If I open it up, it is from 1482, printed in his press in Westminster, as shown here. It's from a book called the Polychronicon by a man called Ranulph Higden. It is in English. If you want to read it, it's all about the emperor, apostate emperor Julian. And this would have been printed in London, right next to Westminster Abbey, in 1482. And what a brilliant piece of history in my hands, connected to this amazing hall, which I'm a member of. on Remembrance Sunday, I'd like to remember 23 people who died on this very spot. The 5th of August 1944, about flying one with wind, ship rain, in Stonehenge. 23 people, the youngest being just 2 years old, the oldest I think being 82. Extremely sad. And it's been long to put up here 50 years after. On Remembrance Sunday, let us not forget. This is a remains of the design for a poppy, and the poppy factory, which is used for the Royal British Legion each year. The artist Cornelia Parker has taken the extras left over and laid them out into this amazing tent. The tent, she says, it represents the tent that was erected by Henry VIII in 1530 for a debate at the Field of the Cloth of Gold with the King of France. Bizarrely, he actually challenged the King of France to a wrestling match in that debate, but the King had a special throw that he knew and actually defeated Henry. This is almost womb-like, I think, sort of a bloody chamber interior, but it's meant to commemorate the dead and the wars, and how we commemorate the dead each year on Remembrance Day with the poppies that are sold for the Royal British Legion. You know, this is Cornelia Parker, and I'm virtually alone in this exhibition for the last few days. I think it's sold out, sadly. Anyway, here we are. This is the private bedroom in the Cabinet War Rooms underneath Whitehall, belonging to Brendan Bracken, who was Winston Churchill's Minister of Information and went on to create the modern-day Financial Times after the war. Now, he has recently been exposed as someone who, in later life, was obsessed with being flogged by young boys. He forged medical documents claiming he suffered from a premature aging disease, and though he looked in his 50s, he was in fact only 15 years old. He persuaded boys to go on holiday with him into Scotland, the Highlands, where he would pretend that he'd been naughty and insisted that they beat him. This only came out about 18 months ago, and clearly not a good thing. And this is where he slept during the Second World War while the bombs were raining down on Whitehall. Hey, do you want to see one of the most bizarre blue plaques in London? Well, I'm on the way to Piccadilly now. Look, we've got Kazakhstan House there, we've got New Zealand House here, but look at this plaque. You will not believe what this is. Have a look. It says, Ho Chi Minh, founder of modern Vietnam, the Viet Cong, worked in 1930 at the Carlton Hotel, which stood on this site, and they felt it was worth a blue plaque for Ho Chi Minh. This is a James Bond film location. What is it? Founded in 1484. This is the College of Arms, which is where you go to get a coat of arms, costing about, I don't know, £10,000. Which film is it? It's on Her Majesty's Secret Service, the one-off George Lazenby film. And he comes here to pretend to be one of the senior members of the College of Arms to contact Blofeld, who is claiming aristocratic heritage through, amongst other things, his lobed ear missing. He drives his Aston Martin DB7 into this very courtyard, goes into the courtroom, which you can see through the windows here, and he gets them to agree that he can impersonate one of their senior members to have an in with the Blofeld baddie on Her Majesty's Secret Service. By the way, this is the location where the coronation next year will be planned, as the head of this college, the Duke of Norfolk hereditary membership, is also responsible for, amongst other things, organising all royal coronations. So this is where most of it, I believe, will be planned. College of Arms. We are on the Thames Street, right by the Millennium Bridge on this side, and St Paul's Cathedral behind the college. This is a lucky ship, HMS Belfast. It served in D-Day, served in the actions which led to the sinking of the German battleship Scharnhorst, and yet in all its active service it only ever lost one sailor. HMS Belfast, it's now a museum ship owned by the Imperial War Museum, a living memory and heritage of naval power, and incredible place to visit. And it's framed, of course, by the wonderful shard. I'm called David Harry, the London spy, and the final thing to look at in this area is, of course, the iconic Tower Bridge. Also, just in the very background distance here, we even have the Tower of London. Hi, I'm in the Imperial War Museum in Kennington, and this is a scene of the Blitz. Actually, it isn't. So it's in the underground and people are sheltering, clearly from bombs. But in fact, this was painted in 1918, and it's to do with the First World War. It's called The Underworld. Walter Bayes is the artist, and it was actually taken at Elephant, which is just a few minutes walk away from this gallery. And in the First World War, twice as many people, 300,000 people, escaped from the German bombs as lived underground during the Second World War in the Blitz in 1940-41. And you can see here that there's a lovely little dog underground, someone with very ripped clothes here, people looking rather upset or not very happy, and a baby, someone dressed in very fancy clothing here, and we've even got someone having a sing-along, playing the accordion next to a tiny baby who probably isn't very happy about the accordion being played right next to him. But so this explains why it wasn't just the Second World War when the underground was used to escape German bombs. So Christmas Day 1914 in the trenches. This is a genuine photo in the Imperial War Museum of the British and German London Rifle Brigades fraternising, as they say, with each other on Christmas Day. Here's another photo of them together too. And the final one of the officers mingling from the hussars. And lastly, this is a here it goes. This is a medal, a uniform button rather, that a German soldier, Werner Kahl, wrote his name on it here as well, and gave it to Lance Corporal Eric Rowden, the Queen's Westminster Rifles, on Christmas Day. And here's a note explaining what it meant to him and what he wrote in his diary about it. So it genuinely did happen. It's not a myth. It actually took place Christmas Day 1914. German and British soldiers crossing the lines and socialising, singing carols, exchanging presents, cigarettes, buttons, badges, but the fighting started soon after. This is a genuine British camouflage tree observation post. Because of the snipers, what would happen is that a real tree would be sketched, which had its branches shot off, and then a replica tree with a steel core inside it was constructed. The old tree was taken down at night, the new one put up, and then the observers could crawl up inside it and watch the enemy lines. They'd use periscopes to look out. This is a sniper's jacket, by the way, and use it as an observation post from which to safely snipe at German lines. And this is a genuine one. So this extraordinary measure shows the story of the war in feet and inches. If you look closely, you can see here that at the beginning of the war, you had to be 5'3" to join. But so many people rushed in that eventually they shortened it, so it lengthened it rather to make it 5'6", which may be my height, because so many people tried to join up. But then, I suspect as people began to realise what was happening on the trenches, they lowered it again to 5'4", and then even to 5'3", and finally to 5'2", because they were so desperate for more recruits to join. Imagine being 5'2" in order to join the army. And finally, they called these short regiments the Bantam Battalions. Heaven to hell. So here I am at number 10. How come I've been able to get so close? So close, in fact, that you can actually see me here at number 10. The reason is not because I'm an MP or even the PM, it's because this is not actually number 10 Downing Street. It is in Adam Street, in just off the Strand, but it looks so much like number 10 Downing Street, but it's often used as a stand-in for TV, films, or whatever. You can't get to Downing Street anymore because after the IRA put a mortar attack on the garden there in the 90s, it's been fenced off with security, etc. So this is a really good place that looks exactly like number 10 Downing Street, and it's in a very historic area, part of London. Some absolutely beautiful other buildings around here. As you pull away, you can see it's no longer actually looking anything like it because you've got Leon and Wild Hotels next door. This is Adam Street, absolutely beautiful architecture, and number 10. Is this the shortest street name in London? Of Alley? Actually, I'm afraid it isn't. I thought it was at first, but it's still got a very interesting story behind it. All the land around here used to be owned by George Villiers, the Duke of Buckingham, and he sold it to developers on the promise that they named all the streets after him. So we have Buckingham Street, we have Villiers Street at the end, he didn't answer the embankment. We have Duke Street, we have George Street, etc. But of course his name is the Duke of Buckingham, so as a final present to him, they called this little alleyway up here of Alley, and that's why it's got this bizarre name. As I said, fortunately it isn't the shortest street name in London. It's very close to it, but some ones are shorter, I don't know which. It's now been renamed to York Place anyway, but here we are, of Alley. Okay, this is the famous Strand, and there's a secret here, always a secret in my tours. In this case, it's this building, number 111. quite ordinary looking, you might think, but if you look up at it, you'll see that it's got this strange design listing all the way going up the side of it. This is in fact a map of the streets around here, with the building at one end, and it goes all the way down to the River Thames at the other side. So a hidden map in the middle of Strand, and there we go. So this is a genuine Enigma machine, the German coder that was broken by Alan Turing at Bletchley Park in the Second World War. So how did it work? When you were encrypting, you would type your letters on the keyboards here. That would then light up a letter above it, which would show you which letter to use. And how would the letters change? They used 3 rotors with a key. Each time you pressed a single letter, the first rotor, the rotor would move 26 times. Then the second rotor, after the first had finished, would move again, and the third again as well. There was a plug board that you switched around as well before you set each message. So you'd have to both change the plug board first, and then the rotors themselves would move. So no 2 letters would be the same. They thought it was uncrackable, but using the special bombs at Bletchley Park, Alan Turing and Gordon Welchman designed a machine that was able to crack it, as seen in the film The Imitation Game. And here is a section of decoded messages. Section 11 only. A genuine, original Enigma machine. Over 1.5 million people were evacuated in World War II and sent to live away from towns into the country. Many children found it extremely distressing, and this leaflet was created to give their families advice about how to prevent bedwetting. Apparently, some people, however, exaggerated the situation in an attempt to claim an additional laundry allowance from the government. My own grandmother took in some refugees in the Second World War, Cockneys apparently from the East End of London. She said that when they arrived they were so dirty it looked as if they had never had a wash. I suspect that's just to do with the war deprivation, however, but my family took in evacuees in the Second World War. This isn't a doll's house, it's a scale model from World War II of a family home, the Allpress family who lived in South London, and this model was made in the 1980s by a relative, the husband of one of the women who had lived here, who knew it very well, and it's meant to be a very, very accurate depiction of what life was like during the Blitz in particular in the Second World War. It's incredibly accurate, down to the shelter in the garden with all the living accoutrements inside it as well. So here is another view. This is a fantastic model of a house from the early years of the Second World War. Isn't it just fantastic? So detailed. Go. Can I see myself? No. On her birthday each year, this statue of Queen Anne is meant to get up off her pedestal and walk up and down the street. I don't know if it really happens, I suddenly doubt it. Anyway, this is a statue of Queen Anne, as from the film The Favourite. She was the queen who was on the throne when St Paul's Cathedral was finished. She also had this street named after her, Queen Anne's Gate, built in the early years of the 18th century. It's got these amazing sort of gargoyle features on all the different building bosses, I think above the windows they're called. Anyway, it's a spectacular street. I think the Sting used to live here at one point. It's got a very large number of blue plaques on it. Blue plaques are for famous peoples who lived in certain places. And this used to be a rat run from people coming from Victoria towards Westminster. So they built a brick wall across here, but then it was taken down. And it's probably my favourite in terms of the beautiful streets in London, and it's called Queen Anne's Gate. This is the famous stone staircase of the National Liberal Club in the heart of Whitehall in Westminster. I am a reciprocal member through another club that I belong to. Amongst the treasures in this club is this portrait over here. So what's not so well known by people who associate him with another party is that Winston Churchill, the Right Honourable Winston Churchill MP, was in his early years a Liberal politician, and here he is in the club because of that fact. So I've been invited tonight to the Mansion House, which is the official residence of the Lord Mayor of London, and I'm going to take you into the Egyptian Hall, this fabulously splendourous building, the official residence, as I said, of the Lord Mayor. It was built in the 1750s by a man called George Dance the elder, and then George Dance the younger finished it off later. And the story goes that the funding to build this came from the non-conformist Christians who were forbidden to hold certain types of public office, but they refused to do so, and they were then fined for not taking up these offices, but they were continually voted into these positions, allegedly, so that they would continue to pay money to not have to take up the offices, and that money was effectively extorted from them due to the sincerity of their religious beliefs, which led to the money being put in place to actually build this amazing building, the Mansion House. So it's really built on religious intolerance being exploited for the purposes of building this building. Anyway, this is the Mansion House, and I've been here for a charity reception for the Lord Mayor's appeal, which I have been very happy to support recently. I'm at the latest spy headquarters address in London. I'm at Slough House, for those of you who are fans of Mick Ferran and his books. We are in Aldersgate Street in the City of London. This is number 126. This is the famed address. It's even got an owl, purveyor of secrets, up on top. And this is literally the place that Mick Ferran created as the home for retired, superannuated spies. And it's the actual place that's used in the filming as well. This is the side address that they go up with the staircase on the side that they use, I think, to go in. But anyway, this is genuinely the location used in the film TV series based in Soho House. Part 2 is due out very soon as well. So make your way to the Barbican. Come out at Barbican Tube, which is just down there. Walk north up Cartesian Street, and you'll find yourself outside Slough House. So another beautiful house, this one. We're in Doughty Street, just feet away from Charles Dickens' house. But this building here, number 56 Doughty Street, until a few years ago, it was owned by a very famous magazine called The Spectator, which is sort of a right-of-centre magazine, which traces its roots back to Addison in the 1710s or thereabouts. But what I love about this particular house is the mosaic in its doorway. Have a look at this. It's got a palette on it with paint, and I love the way that the leaves here sort of complement the colour scheme for this. So I can't quite make out. So there's a palette, there's a few three brushes, one of which looks like an arrow, but these bizarre things in the corner look like they're made of, I don't know, they're chocolates, ties, but the whole thing is an incredibly beautiful accompaniment to the scene of the street, and obviously it's somewhere that I would love to live if only my TikTok reviews would lead to a lot of money coming in. Anyway, hope you enjoy this. Former home of The Spectator in Doughty Street, next to Charles Dickens' house. Okay, so if you like your Dutch art, then get yourself invited to the Mansion House. I've sneaked in. I'm meant to be at the hall tonight for a charity event, but I've managed to slip away, and I'm now looking at my absolute favourite style of art in the world, which is called Dutch Italianate art, Not all of it is Italian, but it's all Dutch here. It was a donation given to the Lord Mayor many years ago, and it's, I think, probably one of the best collections in the world of this style of art. So Dutch artists would go to Italy, and in particular note the skylines, the shadows, the sunset in evenings, and replicate them across a wide number of their arts. And these paintings really sing to me, to my soul. There's something about the sort of like desolate views of nights, of the light evening sky closing in, and the sunlight streaming across a lot of country scenes here, and particularly the beautiful clouds that they paint, like Turner in many ways. I think this is Roysdale, and again a short evening scene as well. But this Italianate art just makes my soul sing with happiness, and I feel so privileged to be able to see it by myself in close-up once more. Who's that by? Post. Another scene. So, oh my God, Dutch Italianate art. This is an unparalleled, world-beating collection in the Guildhall in the City of London, the Lord Mayor's house. So I'm just admiring this gorgeous graffiti here in Peckham, where I live. And look what some terrible artist has defaced this wonderful graffiti with. A disgusting windmill, Spitfire, wind turbine and rainbow. How dare they desecrate this beautiful example of modern art with something so disgracefully old-fashioned. And here's some detail about the artwork. Can you see Dick Whittington here with his cat? So we're in St Michael Paternoster Royal, a church originally founded by, he was not a pantomime character, he was in real life the genuine Lord Mayor of London, and he built this church originally in 1397. It was entirely destroyed in the Great Fire of London, so rebuilt by Christopher Wren, and then again damaged in the Second World War, which means all the glass in it was put in following that. But yeah, this is him wearing his knapsack, the cat saying "Turn again, Dick Whittington," where the streets are paved with gold in London. And this is a beautiful church. I'm here for a meeting of the church watchers. We're all volunteers keeping the City of London churches open, where otherwise they'd have to close up and no one could visit them. It's a great thing to do. I feel as if I'm helping out, keeping the life of the City of London alive. So, what's the church called? It's called St Michael Paternoster Royal. And this is Dick Whittington. So this is the Guildhall. No, it's not. Sorry, it's the Mansion House, which is the official residence of the Lord Mayor of the City of London and has been since the 1750s. A huge donation of Dutch art was given to this by Lord Samuel, and one of them, this painting here, the Merry Lute Player by Frans Hals, which is an incredibly valuable piece of art. I've just been told that this painting was the very first painting to be bought by telephone.
Oh, well, there
an auction, either the bidder was in America and the sale was here, or vice versa, but this was the very first painting ever bought by telephone, by ringing in to an auction sometime in the early 60s, I believe. And then it was donated to the Lord Mayor by Lord Samuel later on. And it is, as I said here, Frans Hals, the Merry Lute Player. It is an astonishing work of art. I think it's incredibly valuable.
That is
Frans Hals, the Laughing Cavalier in the Wallace collection, the same artist.
Is that? That's not the real one.
It is. It's the original.
My God.
And it was bought. It was a very. This is a Blitz butterfly bomb, a German bomb that was dropped on Britain. 45,000 tons of bombs were dropped altogether during the Blitz. These were small and deadly. They were dropped in vast quantities to start fires that burned buildings, and that would often allow the German bombers to be guided to these locations later on as well. They could be found half buried in grass or verges, hanging through the ceiling by its wings, or on the floor where they're caught in the ceiling. Very, very dangerous World War II German butterfly bombs. This is the Black Book secret list of people who the Germans planned to arrest having invaded the UK. Many Jewish people, politicians, communists, authors, actors and artists are in here, including Sigmund Freud, the famous artist Oskar Kokoschka, and even that amazing writer Herbert George H.G. Wells, with his full address here. And this is the Germans, the Black Book, that they intended to arrest and probably execute anyone whose name was on this list if they had successfully invaded this country. So I'm dressed appropriately for the Burberry shop, of course, and let's find the secret inside this shop, because this used to be something else. In 1925, the first one in the West End was imported into this building to be used for a very strange purpose. You can sort of guess perhaps what this building might have been at some point in the past, but these galleries, and this sort of big clue here, screen here. But if I go behind this stairway, hello David, and look through the curtains here, you will see from 1925 this amazing original and entirely playable Wurlitzer organ. It was the first one in the West End. It was massively popular. They would put public recitals on here, and even now over Christmas they open it up and they put on concerts here. So come to Burberry in Regent Street and hear this amazing building. So I have evidence that animal sculptures really come alive. Look over here. So we have the Liberty Bounds here, and look at this eagle. Not only does it appear to come alive, but also to eat and to, how can I put it, excrete all over the world. So animals do come alive. I'm David Harrick, I am the London Spy. This is London. And please follow me if you like the videos. Click on the links to follow my TikTok, and come and see me at one of my tours.